How's it going, my truant people? DrSlaking, the Slacking Doctor, back with week 3, I believe, of the UBL, as this week your Bowland Bovines take on Garchomp the God and his Lawrence Talonflames. Now, I did say this in Team Builder, but in case you missed it, unfortunately, since this game, Austin has quit Pokemon and deleted his YouTube channel. Obviously, real life always comes first, so I completely understand. But it is unfortunate, so this will be the only side of this battle for this week. Regardless, check out the rest of the UBL coaches. I believe Diet Tight, my boy Diet Tight replaced Austin, so got a lot of love for him. So, you know, these things happen. But moving on, looking at this team preview, for those of you that didn't watch the team builder, we have a... Christ, it's going to test my memory, because I can't exactly remember the team. I think we have an Expert Belt Infernape. I think we have a Assault. We definitely have an Assault Vest Spadef Pangoro. We have like a Leftovers Leech Seed Sub Protect type Whimsicott. We have a Rocks Shucker Berry Metagross. We have a Scarf Diggersby, and we have a Dragon Dance Firium Z Moxie Salamence. So, looking at my opponent's team, Salamence, just as I hoped, looks like it will tear this team apart. I need to figure out who his Scarfers are and if I outspeed them, but once I know that, in theory, I can just pretty much 6-0 this team with a Scarf Salamence sweep. Need to be careful of like the aftermath on the Skuntank, as well as the priority on Skuntank with Sucker Punch, Bullet Punch on the Scissor, and potential Scarf Kyurem. I can't remember if I crept Scarf Kyurem with my build exactly. I think I was a little bit greedier with my creep, so need to be careful of all the above. But regardless, the team looks pretty good. At matchup, I think that my double fighting types kind of go in against this team. He only has one fighting resist in the Gardevoir, which is going to be super pressured. Sorry, he has two, but he also has a Gligar. But if I can knock off the Gligar, that's incredible for the Salamence endgame. So I feel like the build should work out pretty well. I've just got to try and pressure that Gligar, pressure that Gardevoir, and crucially, the most important thing is position the Salamence correctly to get the Dragon Dance off and then just sweep from that position. If I do that right, then this game's already decided the team preview, unless my opponent has brought some crazy techs that I'm not prepared for. So, we did off with Infernape. We can bluff Scarf very well here, leading off with Infernape. It looks like a Scarf U-turn lead. He decided to lead with the Gligar. I can click U-turn here, knowing this thing is highly unlikely to be Scarf, and now we have kind of screamed to him that we are more than likely to be a Scarf set on this Infernape, which will come into play later in the game. We're going to pivot out into Onigawara here, making the debut for the Bowland Bovines this season. First time seeing Pangoro on the screen, if you like, and I'm super excited to see how Pangoro does. I do have this at the right size, don't I? Yes, I do. So, yeah, Pangoro's just going to click Knock here. There's no reason not to. If I can knock off the Gligar, that's incredible. He doesn't have any fighting resist, so there's nothing that really switches into this that well, apart from the Gardevoir, which gets Bullet Punch, doesn't like Knockoff, and the Gligar, which was already in, which loves a knockoff, so, which hates a knockoff, which we would love to get knocked off. So we actually crit the knockoff on the Skuntank as it came in there, you might have noticed. But we Drain Punch back any Sludge Bomb damage he's doing to me, and we're then able to pick him off with Bullet Punch. The crit really didn't matter, because all it would have meant is that instead of Bullet Punching him this turn, he would have been at more health for me to Drain Punch back the next turn. The fact that we just fully recover all damage he does to us with our Drain Punch shows that the crit really wasn't that consequential at all. Here he makes a strange play as he goes out into Gardevoir. I've just shown him Bullet Punch, and he should know from the Sludge Bomb damage that I'm AV, and we're very specially bulky, so we'll tank a Moonblast potentially. I didn't do the calcs or anything, but I was like, that's a weird play. Like, maybe he's like Specs, or maybe he's a Berry, so he knows he can take the Bullet Punch, or I don't know. I was just like, it really confused me. So I went out into Big Steve, but he actually makes the double into the Gligar, and I'm like, oh, okay, so he just wanted to try and catch my Big Steve, I think. So I was like, right, that's a pretty nice double, but I can still switch in on Gligar pretty well with my Whimsicott. Now, if he just went for the U-turn here, then I'd be like, okay, he's just trapping me in the cycle, making me take Rocks Chip. This isn't good, I'm going to have to do something to break that. But actually, he does go for the Earthquake, so definitely some nice doubles and nice moving me around, but Gligar isn't the best breaker, certainly not against my team, so it meant that we were kind of okay to deal with that. And here I can just go for a sub, and this thing can't break my sub, even with a U-turn. I don't believe with my investment this thing will break my sub, so I'm just pretty safe here to just go for that. I'm going to get Leftovers recovery anyway, as he does go for the Toxic, trying to whittle me down, so that's really nice. That's just free recovery for me. Here I could go for the Seed, but I'm just going to Moonblast, because that way I guarantee damage on something. If I Leech Seed and he goes for the slow U-turn, I get nothing out of that turn, so it's better to just Moonblast and get some damage off on something as the Scissor comes in. I'm like, okay, Scissor's fine. Storm can kind of put Leech Seed on this and really wear it down. Now, one thing that is important to note here is that I can't beat this thing 1v1. I don't have Hidden Power Fire, and I don't have a form of reliable recovery like he has Roost. So eventually he will beat me in this exchange, but I may as well get some chip on this thing, because some chip on this thing means that my Z is not as important on Salamence. I could burn it on something like the Gligar, or I could burn it on something like the Gardevoir. So I feel like getting chip off on this is just really good for my Salamence endgame. Obviously he does have Rocks up as well, so my Salamence is going to be at 75 when I go for the sweep, so I have to be conscious of that too, and I have to think about how I'm going to position it. I should have mentioned that at team preview, that I'm really thinking about trying to get it set up on the Gligar, as that's the only thing. The Skuntank could have done maybe too, but the Gligar is by far the most passive thing in this team. I could try and set up on the Mega Scissor as well, but that would be a little bit more risky. It depends on his investment, which at the minute I don't know. So regardless, it looks like he's probably like max HP for my Moonblast damage, but I don't know too much more than that. So I'm just going to sub up here again, because if he goes for the U-turn, it puts me in a difficult position, because he doesn't really have anything that wants to come in to revenge me at all. He wants to then go back into the Scissor on me. So I feel like I can just keep subbing up and like making him keep bullet punching, taking chip. Like I say, I can't do this forever, because I will lose the 1v1 because he has reliable recovery and I don't, but I'm just whittling this thing down essentially. So instead, here I'm going to pivot into Infernape, because I think this is the turn where he either goes for Roost or he goes for U-turn to get out of there. I don't think he's going to let me sub again particularly, so I'm just going to go straight into Wukong to kind of assert some offensive pressure. But instead, he just pivots out hard, doesn't go for the U-turn or anything, which really surprised me, into Zeraora. And I'm like, okay, well, I've already bluffed the Scarf in the early game, so you can see here he goes for Plasma's Fist. I didn't think he would stay in here in any world. I was like, I've already shown you in the early game. I led off with this, I clicked U-turn, it looked like a Scarf Infernape. I think his best play here is to scout for it, because if I just click Flare Blitz, I'm never going to Earthquake or anything like that, so if he had a Sugar Berry or anything like that, that's not relevant. If I just Scarf Flare Blitz, he's dead, so I was like, okay, I think he's going to pivot out into Gligar, so I just go for the U-turn here. But unfortunately, because we can't see his side of this game, I don't know whether he just called that, whether he called that I wasn't Scarf, or he called that I was Scarf and I would U-turn, or what. But either way, he gets me here for sure, and I just U-turn. Maybe he just didn't even consider the scout, I'm not sure. But yeah, he definitely gets me there with the Plasma Fist, and I'm like, damn, Infernape is so low now. That's really annoying, so I'm just going to go hard out into Warren, as that's the only thing that can outspeed this thing. And now, I've already shown that I am not Scarf on Infernape. So this thing screams Scarf, right? I'm bringing it in on him when he probably has close combat. This thing is screaming Scarf, and even if he's Sugar Berry, that's irrelevant. He has a Gligar in the back. I'm never clicking Earthquake here. I'm only clicking Return if I'm trying to KO this thing, and Return does KO this thing from where it's at. So I'm like, okay, he might be going for the Speed tie, but I doubt that. I doubt he's even crept up to the Speed tie. So I just go for the knockoff, trying to catch the Gligar. And he actually stays in again, and we do knock off his Shuka Berry here, so maybe he thought that, oh, live Earthquake anyway, I have the Shuka, but Return would have killed him anyway, and I would never have gone for Earthquake with Gligar on the back. So again, super, like, just calling me, and we can't know because we don't have his side of the game. I don't know whether he was like, oh, he's gonna make a read, he's gonna go for another U-turn or something, but regardless, he's just got me twice in a row. I couldn't go into this thing on the first Plasma Fist because we didn't take Plasma Fist into Fire Punch, which is why I never went into this on the original Plasma Fist that he clicked. So that really sucks. We just have to take the Fire Punch here and fire off the Moonblast. You can see we could never have brought this thing on a hard switching because any more chip and we would have died to that Fire Punch. So regardless, I can get the Moonblast off and kill this thing because it is just starting to do my head in. I'm guessing he's probably got close combat, Plasma Fists, Fire Punch, and maybe Hidden Power Ice for the Salamence, something like that. So otherwise his set would be walled by Salamence. So don't think I ever could have set up on that thing. As he brings out the Gardevoir here, and I'm like, okay, this could be really valuable information, because if this thing is Scarf, then it could potentially be set up for my Salamence later if he locks himself into something like this Shadow Ball. Then maybe I could set it up if I've got rid of his Scissor, for example, so he has no priority. Then I could set up on this thing and I could just win the game. So that's really, really valuable information to take away there, considering the late game sweep that we've been playing for this whole time. Here I'm just going to fire off another knockoff, because again, he either gives me Scarf on his Gardevoir and then that's fantastic, or he pivots out into this thing, fearing me going for a Bullet Punch, which is exactly what he seemed to do. So we managed to call that right, and we get the knockoff on the Gligar, which is amazing. So here I go into Infernape to try and sack it, because this is my chance to go for game here. I've had enough, I'm going for game with Salamence, but unfortunately he misses the Toxic. I can click Flare Blitz here and kill him, but in the long game, that actually doesn't benefit me at all. If I want to get my Salamence set up, this is the time to do it. This is my best opportunity to get Salamence in and to win the game. So I'm actually just going to go for the close combat here and hope that he just clicks the Earthquake. It did cover his other switch-ins, for example. If he had gone out into the Scissor, he would have taken a lot from that and stuff. And I wouldn't have died to recoil, so I still could have preserved this Infernape to sack in front of the Gligar later on and do the same thing with Emiliano, whereas the Flare Blitz recoil would have killed me. So this was just my best way of kind of covering all bases. And here I can finally just go for the game. If he Toxics me, I'm pretty sure I've got enough bulk to live Bullet Punch plus all the Toxic stack for the amount of turns I need for this sweep. I'm pretty sure we'll be fine. So we just go straight up for the Dragon Dance. We now outspeed Scarf Gardevoir. We now outspeed everything on his team, as his Gardevoir is his confirmed Scarfer. And I can just go for the Fire Fang and the Scissor. You can see this leaves me with 68 HP. I'm not sure how many turns of Toxic that would have been. Maybe 3-4 turns of Toxic. As we see that he has... We'll see in a second there. We get the Moxie boost, of course, which is super nice. But as we see, he goes out into Gardevoir and has... is it going to show me the little Pokeballs at the top of the screen, show how many mons he's got left? You guys know how many mons he's got left. It's on the layout, but I can't see it, and I can't quite recall. 3. So yeah, we only needed 3 turns to stay alive to sweep his team from this point. So that's why I felt like even if he Toxic to me there, I think we would have been fine. I think that would have been enough turns to at least put one of my other mons in a position where they win the game, but probably still just win it with Salamence. So Emiliano can go for the Inferno Overdrive here, guarantees to KO. We are at +1. If he burns my Z by pivoting now into Gligar and sacking the Gligar, we get a Moxie boost. And regular Fire Fang then kills this Gardevoir. So firing off the Z there was a no drawback play. We either locked up the kill on the Gardevoir or we locked up the Moxie boost on something else. So that was really all we had to go for there. Here we can bring in the Kyurem. I think that even if he's Scarf Kyurem at this point, we will still win the game. I don't think I speed crept this, but I might have done. Regardless, he isn't Scarf Kyurem, or if he is, he's a slower Scarf Kyurem than me, and I can fire off the Dragon Claw and pick up the KO here. Had he gone into Kyurem before the Gardevoir, I might have considered trying to pivot out if I was slower than it, just to preserve my Emiliano for the late game, but there was no point in over-predicting there. I could just Dragon Claw at that point, and I would guarantee to win the game with, like, Pangoro or whatever in the late game. So here we can Dragon Claw the Gligar and pick up the Salamence sweep. So I have said in a couple of these battles recently that Salamence, Emiliano, Onigawara, Pangoro, Koffagrigus, Pat, and Lycanroc, Cagliostro. I've said previously that all of those are kind of on the chopping block, that I'm looking to potentially trade some of those away. Well, this week reaffirmed that Salamence is not the mon I should trade away. Last week I realized that it was a really important ground immunity for me. This week I realized that, hey, I can position it to sweep in games just fine. So with that in mind, I decided that we're definitely not trading away Salamence. However, we will have some trades before our week 4 game. So definitely, if you've not already subscribed so you can keep up with the team, see what new Bowland Bovines we'll be recruiting in the coming week. But yeah, Salamence is definitely locked up his place on the team. And Onigawara, Pangoro, I really loved prepping with it this week, and I really loved playing with it. So who knows, maybe having that great knockoff user will keep it on the team too. Regardless, GG to my man Austin. I don't know if he's watching. Like I say, I know that he's not super involved in the community at this point, but if he is watching, GG to him. I would absolutely love to know whether he was like making big predictions on the Zeraora, or if he was just happy to let that thing go down and was just sacking it. I have no idea. But regardless, guys, we are going to end it here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our week 3. We are now 2-1 going into week 4, so we finally got a positive record back, I believe. Yeah, that's correct. So we finally got a positive record back, which is always super important to me. Hopefully you guys are happy with the team. It worked out pretty much as we planned. And I think there were some important lessons to be drawn from this battle. You know, I think clicking close combat with the Infernape into the Gligar was a really, really good example of not just taking the kill that's in front of you, but thinking about how each move influences your kind of board positioning for the long game. It's one of those things where sometimes people just think, well, I can pick up a KO, well, I can pick up a KO, well, I can... Each turn, they just go like that. Where can I get a KO this turn? And sometimes it's much more about how you can position yourself on the board. So yeah, definitely an interesting battle for sure. Next week, we take on Frosted. Seems super, super nice from the interactions I've had with her, so definitely looking forward to that one. Regardless, guys, I'm going to shut up now. Thank you so much for flipping around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.